All right. Welcome everyone to the final day of Peerpocalypse 2020. We're going to give it a minute. As per usual, I'm Mary Ann. Hi, Amber, Jenny, Ann, Casey, Jimmy, Renelle, Mark, Kevin, Richard, David,
Woo!
Vanessa.
Hey, Janie.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Keisha.
Hey.
Jose. I wish I could just go through like every time. I'm just like, as they pop up, I'm able to like say some names, but I know I will have missed some folks, but next year, let's all put that out in the universe together. However we can collectively cross our fingers to get Peerpocalypse 2021 live and in person in Seaside. We've got the conference center reserved, so as long as, you know, we can safely do so, we will. We'll just give it another minute or two a few seconds to allow more folks as they come in to be admitted. Oh, it's always a bittersweet day on the final day of Peerpocalypse. The energy is so sustaining over the 4 days, and I've been surprised how even virtually that energy has been collectively shared. So I thank each and every one of you that have just persevered through a virtual platform and have made this possible. I'm so grateful. And again, I want to do a shout out and a huge thanks to our admin team, Sunny, Casey, Nicole, and Katie for just the heavy work that they did to make this possible as well. And it was pretty, I mean, it had its glitches. I mean, that's technology, but I think it went off pretty well. So we got them flowers today from us all. It was from all Peerpocalypse attendees and participants, as well as the MHAAO family. So we will get started. For those of you I haven't met yet, I'm Janie Gullickson, Executive Director of the Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon. And on behalf of MHAAO staff, volunteers, and board of directors, I'd like to thank you for joining us, being a huge part of Peerpocalypse 2020. Thank you all. It has been different, but so incredible to witness the sense of community that has been accomplished, even though it's been virtual. So kudos to you. I'm grateful. Thank you. I've got some announcements. So behind me, I don't have the virtual background. I've got a couple of things. One little public service announcement, Naloxone saves lives. And then we have Peerpocalypse merch. So if you go to Peerpocalypse website, you'll see the hoodies with the rainbow and Peerpocalypse infinity, and or the very thick canvas Peerpocalypse tote bags, and they are sturdy. So they're pretty awesome. I have one of each. Let's see, what else? At 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Peerpocalypse Got Talent will start, and it will go, we've got a 2-hour window, probably about 90 minutes. So please go to the link and sign up if you want to perform in Peerpocalypse Got Talent. And we welcome all kinds of talents. So just, yeah, whatever you'd like to bring and are willing to share, please do. We look forward to it. And the last half hour or so will be the Mad Hatter dance party, virtual dance party. But we have, it's going to be hosted by Shots, and he's got promises to have a fantastic playlist, something for everyone. It's going to be a lot of fun and a way to end Peerpocalypse 2020 as we dance our way out. And then next we would like to showcase Microcosm Publishing. They always, for the last several years, have had that incredible merchandise, books, little games, things like that we've enjoyed, and they've just become a big part of Peerpocalypse. So we'd like to share their video, and then I will introduce the keynote. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I am an editor and I run the bookstore at Microcosm Publishing. We have a wide variety of books on mental health, everything from developing healthy friendships to working on your creativity and your organization skills, all the way to how not to kill yourself. This book is infinitely timely because we can always improve our coping skills.
This is Dr. Faith's best-selling book, Unfuck Your Brain. It depicts how trauma screws with you on every level, and how you can't just be a person in the world without your brain drawing some absurd conclusion about what's going on with you right now.
This is our zine, soon-to-be book, How to Resist Amazon and Why. It's a quick and easy-to-follow way to fight Bezos and all of the corruption he represents.
When Microcosm first came to Peerpocalypse, we were setting up and people started to come up and ask what we did, and then within a few minutes they decided on their own that we were peer publishers, which was just about the sweetest thing that anyone has ever said to me. Out of the responsibility of that situation, I felt the need to make these resources for autistic adults who maybe don't yet have their handle on how other people treat them and why things are so confusing and complicated all the time. The one on the left is for the partners of autistic adults, and the one on the right is for autistic adults.
Book Unfuck Your Anger, and I actually found it extremely helpful, not because I see myself as an angry person, but she talks about anger directed at the self, and I found it really helpful and an interesting take on the subject.
Close sheltering, often with friends, family, spouses, better, worse. And, you know, this book has a lot of the tools to have those conversations and make those things palatable and or even, dare I say, functional.
I think I read it in one sitting, and it's got some really great tips for not only how to deal with your anxiety in the long run, but quick fixes for just catching your breath and that kind of thing.
Somebody posted a photo of this book in a stack of books that was a foot tall, and they said this book had more information than the rest of the books in the stack combined, which was rather horrifying, but then kind of comforting that, you know, you can compress information.
I just finished this. I love Murakami, but he is not great at writing endings. And I think he actually wrote a good ending in this one.
And what bookstore would be complete without a book that has right at the counter what to read when you're freaking out?
This is one of my favorite books of ours that I've read. It's a gonzo-type journalism, delve into the Juggalo and ICP subculture. There's a moment where Gallagher is on acid. Oh, I just read this. This is a fun and beautiful book that goes through the history of the macabre and our traditions around death. And it's a great conversation starter to pick out a page and chit-chat with your buddy about cemeteries or golems. Okay, so this is How Not to Kill Yourself, by Set Sites and Dr. Faith Harper. It is a comical walkthrough how not to kill yourself and how to deal with your depressions, your anxieties. Well, my favorite book I've read is this one. The Royal Art of Poison. It's like a pop history that goes through all of the drama and societal intrigue of the Middle Ages through the late Renaissance. We used to put mercury in pretty much everything. Espionage and intrigue in royal courts.
So just for Pure Apocalypse attendees, if you use the coupon code, the medical model is a scam, all one word, then we will give you 15% off your entire order, and you will get a free copy of Scam, which details the pursuits of one trans woman's jaunts through America, particularly in Miami, in the 80s and 90s, and then eventually moving on to the West Coast. And not quite getting into her current life, where she performs with the punk rock band Bikini Kill.
Thank you so much for your support, and we hope that we can see you next year. Thanks for browsing.
Well, it looks like there is something for anyone and everyone at that bookstore. So thank you, Microcosm Publishing, for pushing the boundaries of just the standard bookstore and publishing company. We appreciate you, and yes, peer publishers. And we can't wait to, again, fingers crossed, see you in person next year. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Chrissy Peirsol. So Chrissy, the way I know her is as for a few years, she was my boss. Chrissy was on the board of MHAAO before I was ever even here. And then through my journey of working here for many, many years. And I'm just grateful for her advocacy and her selfless gift of herself and time, especially in her 20s. That's a lot of responsibility for a person in their 20s. So Chrissy, so grateful to you and so glad that you are our keynote today. And so Christina Peirsol draws experience from a rough childhood, being over-medicated as a teenager, and the compounded struggles of young adulthood. Chrissy started volunteering as a young child and found healthy and safe attention with positive reinforcement that she couldn't get from home. Later, as a youth activist, Chrissy attended every training, conference, and community event she could. She feels in many ways that her activism volunteer work has not only given her a free education, but also filled in so many of the emotional, intelligent deficits from a traumatic upbringing. Now at age 33, Chrissy still faces struggles, but these are struggles that she knows how to cope with and feels strong in knowing her authentic self. She understands her skills and passion that help her find the energy to complete the goals she set for herself. Chrissy is currently a co-chair of the Oregon Consumer Advisory Council and has been on OCAC for almost 10 years. She has grown so strong in those years and has found honor in the person she has become and how she treats others. Chrissy can barely hold on to the potential of her energy and the positive changes she can influence in the world. Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you. And thank you for being willing to help me with my slides too. Are you willing to put those up now? Thank you, Janie, and thank you for that lovely introduction and the opportunity to give my first keynote. I also want to thank you all, the attendees, for being here and being present at this time. It's about physical distancing, not social. I'm noticing a little bit of a lag right now. I just want to apologize, and hopefully that'll clear up later in my presentation. I want to go ahead and change the slide. I want to split my keynote into 3 parts. First will be my sad origin story. The second, I will talk about how my peer community has helped me and what has brought me to the peer movement. And finally, I will talk about a couple of the skills that got me nominated for this keynote. Now, through the filter that I call my volunteer or activism work, I'm beginning to understand the patterns of my successes and what leads to my forever unfinished pile. I see what are my common obstacles and barriers, and I know my triggers for procrastination. There is a rhythm to my successes and my failures. And I see these rhythms in the councils, committees, and boards that I serve on as well. This is a huge skill that I can offer those organizations. And this skill is knowing myself. Change slides. I wasn't always this self-aware. In my past, my darkest memories, I just froze and stopped growing. I know it was for years, and some of the most important years, I just froze away. Now here's the sad backstory. I started to take medication when I was in middle school. My mom's 4th marriage, my 3rd stepdad. He felt most bona fide with having a salaried position and great health insurance. My mom called me broken and thought a fistful of meds was my cure. Even worse was the fact that my prescriber of my medication became a trigger, with every meeting being a vent session about my behavior, my sister's behavior, or anything else that was frustrating my mom at the time. That's what she would talk about at my meetings. My prescriber saw the worst in me and medicated me into oblivion. I will never forget my mom asking the prescriber to give me some type of anti-Velcro pill because I wanted to be around my mom a lot and she just couldn't take it. In reality, I was struggling from epic amounts of abuse from my mom's last marriage, and now being physically abused and tormented from my younger sister who less than a year earlier was in foster care. We just moved to a new place that was only our 2nd since living through the Thurston High School shooting, which hit me really hard as a 5th grader. It was a lot of compounded trauma. I felt so alone struggling in my reality, and now being put on so much medication, it took me away from my life. From 7th grade to about 19 years old, I was really in the greatest battle of my life. It was for my life. Change slides. I want to be clear. The craziest I have ever felt was when I was on all those meds. When I finally broke free from medication, I could see I was not where my peers were. I say I've only failed at 2 things in my whole life, and that's college and suicide. I just didn't have the emotional control others had. I didn't have the ability to know what was triggering me and making me feel scared all the time. I feel I lost so many normal milestone experiences on all those meds. I didn't get to grow those years I was barely surviving. And even though all this is true, I knew I was worth trying for. So I tried for myself. But luckily, I wasn't by myself. And you know who I had with me? You guys. I had my chosen community, my peer community. Next slide. Oregon Family Support Network Youth Leadership Group was really like what I needed in my life at the right time. Those meetings with the bad pizza and the goofing off, where we worked together and just completed stuff right there. I never saw so much progress and growth in humans as I did in those meetings. We grew up just for a moment all together in a safe place. For the first time in my life. I felt so safe trying new skills and struggling to succeed there. I feel I will be chasing that level of collaboration and safety in my life forever that I got there. Mind Freedom International with David Oakes. I started just helping out, trying to establish a youth element, and never wanted to leave. MHAAO. This was one of the first real non-youth sheltered board positions I held. I grew up as an activist through the encounters of those monthly meetings. The first time I ever made a motion was more than likely there. The first time I ever swayed a group of people to vote on my opinion was at MHAO. I will never forget the power I had or the honor and responsibility I held as a board member. I stood up for peers who work less than full time to get healthcare coverage way before Obamacare. I fought hard to promote from within and fought to give equal pay for equal work. I remember voting to expand the agency to offer peer-delivered services. I will dine on my successes there for a lifetime. Thank you, MHAAO, for letting me be present for the growth and change I helped contribute to as a board member. Oregon Consumer Advisory Council. This is another place that I feel like I have grown up at. This is also a place I feel continuously surrounded by mentors and allies in every seat. I also had my community. My peer community was a big one. When I was about 20, I started to, just like a sponge, soak up every training, conference, and webinar I could. And I felt myself grow leaps and bounds, especially when I echoed what I was learning in my own therapy. I will never forget the time I tried talking with my mom on the phone, and she was just yelling at me and saying I was treating her like a client, because I was talking calmly and asking her not to yell. That was just one of the moments that let me know that I could control my emotions and actions better than my past and better than my family. I feel through the years of doing this work, I have built a strong and intuitive emotional intelligence. I really know who I am. I know what are my strengths and my boundaries. The peer community has been the best way for me to get a free education. And with the mentorship from that community, I have been gifted the safest way to slowly blossom my emotional wellness and now my activism skills I have today. So my suggestion I give to you to strengthen your volunteer activism roles is to know yourself and have well-placed boundaries. Next slide. First, strengthen the know yourself skills. I want to talk about how I recognize the leadership skills that I currently possess, or how to cultivate the new skills that I need to complete my goals. I'll also talk about how important it is to have a safe place to grow those skills. Secondly, applying boundaries to the work we do. We may need to radically grow more boundaries or to reestablish those most useful boundaries in the workplace or personal lives that we once had. Before I go on, I want to make a dangerous assumption. I want to assume you all have volunteered or held a leadership role in your community in some way before and have the passion and desire to continue. Who here feels that they still have a lot of learning about themselves to do? That's right. I know I do. Go ahead and change the slide. I also feel I will be learning about myself for the rest of my life. And I don't just mean that chronic reanalyzing a past childhood trauma. I mean the difference between capability in my dreams and the ability to actually grow those dreams and complete them as goals. Go ahead and change slides. In the pursuit of understanding about myself and my authentic skill set, and more importantly, how to translate that into the volunteer activism work that I do, I think to my past, what have I been successful with and why? How did I get help? What did I have to learn? I can think of failures or unfinished projects, and why did they end up the way they did? I have found it is better to think of all the small skills I used to complete a big project rather than the big project of completion itself. I also get to understand myself from listening to more than just the personality tests that I do or the hundreds of hours of mental health podcasts I listen to. I listen to feedback from my community members. I listen to the good, the bad, the ugly, the manic, the pessimistic. And that's just a handful of what helps me recognize the skills that I have. Go ahead and change the slide. It's easy to flourish where I feel competent and comfortable. But I think a ship in harbor is safe. But that's not what ships are built for. And neither is our life. Now that I understand about myself and the skills that I can offer my activism volunteer work, I want to think about learning new skills and cultivating the talents I currently possess. This may be the most important thing I say today. I want us all to think about the human we want to become. Change slides. There is true power in just that word, in just that question. And I hope we all ponder that tonight. What skills or type of human do you want to become? These skills are like no other. They're intentionally planted and given a chance to practice and shine by being watered with encouragement and guidance. We can grow and transform ourselves into the volunteer, activist, and human we want to become. Go ahead and change slides. I take this, how do I want to change idea in two ways. First, I just see what is brought to me, what comes my way with the work that I do. I try and seize opportunity when I see it, and I find it's really easy to find nonprofits that want to use my skilled and free and unpaid time. The other way is more intentional and personal. I daydream a couple times a year. I sit with myself and think, what skills does Chrissy want? What skills do I think I need for my coming tasks and challenge? Where do I want to put my energy to enrich my life? This is growing with intent. Important prep work that we can do for ourselves and those around us is to cultivate a safe place to try new skills. A safe place to fail, to struggle, and to grow together. Change slides. Here is more than a handful of what has worked for me, and I would like to encourage the idea of trying one or more out when taking that leap and trying something new. I want to encourage having a mentor, watching others do it first. Start small and build off your successes. Nothing is a failure, just not how we're going to do it next time. Be honest with more than just yourself about what you can and cannot do. If this seems too eager for everyone, I do want to remind you that some years are for growing and some years are for maintaining what we're already doing. Some skills, as we know, can take a lifetime to build. A good example of me using these boundaries and skills are, I recently agreed to co-host an event. Who wanted to not be in charge or bear the brunt of the responsibilities or be the point person that others could run to have an answer, but I'm down to help. That's me shining. That's me being clear with what my current skills are and knowing what the supports I need to be successful at this new adventure. I've never done co-hosting an event at this level before, but I have a safe learning environment and I am willing to be put in uncomfortable situations to learn and grow. That's the power of boundaries. Next slide. Oh, boundaries. My kryptonite. My arch nemesis, my Achilles heel. I would have to say boundaries are one of the hardest skills for me to lock down, both professionally and personally. I'm learning that is to give myself freedom and security by holding strong boundaries. When learning to have boundaries, I first had to learn how to have radical boundaries. Next slide. Radical boundaries are foundational. They're at the root. They give us the structure and the way to express our limitations. I like to think of boundaries as respectful rules we get to make in our own lives. They are rules for us to follow as much as they are for others to do the same. Boundaries are a way to have protection and care for ourselves already established and in place. When people cross our boundaries, we feel it, even if we didn't actively know that we had that as a boundary. This is an important thing to notice. Some of us need to radically grow more boundaries, and some may need to reestablish those most useful boundaries in the workplace or our personal lives that we once had. Boundaries help us create the safety and structure that can be hard to find in the world. Change slides. When thinking of boundaries, I think of what would have helped me avoid my past failures. There is no greater teacher of needed boundaries than failures or abuse. I also think ahead of time about the way I want to be treated and the behavior I will not take from others. I want to encourage us all to not be vague, but be as clear and precise as possible. Our words are spells. Cast them wisely when you literally breathe life into your boundary by saying them out loud to others. Do not expect others to know your boundaries. Your assumptions will leave you room to be hurt or used. I've also found some of my boundaries come from seeing others use theirs. I make sure to pay extra attention to others and their boundaries, especially when stated. Boundaries help me keep my volunteer or activism relationships healthy and professional. The last boundary skill that I want to talk about is distress tolerance skills. Next slide. This term is a little novel to me, and I'm always actively pursuing it. Distress tolerance skills are there like safety blankets when we're facing that scary dark time. Not to get us out of that scary dark place, but to help us when we are in the thick of it. These skills will help us thrive and survive even when we're in uncomfortable situations. I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but I feel this is one of the top skills that I use to help myself when I'm found in a situation that I have a little control over, a lot of the responsibility, and feel unsafe physically or emotionally. I breathe deep into my belly. I also use mindfulness to stay present. If I slip, I could fall into the fear-mongering of my past, or I could fly forward in a future filled with dread and anxiety. Mindfulness keeps me in the present. I encourage you all to think if you have or need more distress tolerance skills in your life. Next page. Next slide. In conclusion, my childhood made me a consumer survivor of the mental health system. My young adult years, I ran to the community to find a safe place to grow, and what a wealth of growth I found. I came to understand as we succeed within our years of activism volunteer work, we will all notice the need for growing more skills and boundaries. As we rise up in different leadership positions and shuffle through key roles, I hope we notice that we can sculpt what we take on and how we use our own energy. People may be seeking you out for your skills in the legacy they see you actively building. We are not employees and do not have the same protections. But by having assertive and radical boundaries and feeling confident and comfortable with what we're being asked to take on, we can keep ourselves safe and passionate about the work we do together. Thank you all for your time.
Chrissy, thank you so much. And I'm sure there would be a crowd on their feet should we have been in person. But I know that there was probably something everyone took away and just.
Well, I can say with my lovely mental challenges, I hear all those claps in my head. Thank you all. This really means a lot to me. I feel my activism is one of the titles I hold closest to who I am, and I feel like this has been a chance to let you know the two skills that help keep me safe and professional and motivated to continue the work I do.
Thank you so much, because yes, that's a huge part of being in the peer workforce, is also learning how to use your voice as an advocate, and the way of giving back that is unparalleled. So just thank you for showing the way. And that was the last keynote of Peer Apocalypse 2020. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Chrissy. And we will move into the closing ceremony performed by the PUA Foundation. And I hope you find it as beautiful as I do. And just thank you, Tony, and the rest of the PUA Foundation, Kimmy Girl, Auntie Trini, Jackson. Thank you, everyone. And don't forget, second bank of workshops. Even though we're doing the closing ceremony, there's the second bank of workshops for the day. And then we've got Peer Apocalypse Got Talent and the closing dance party, so the Mad Hatter dance party. But for now, just to wrap up the official ceremonial part, we will close with the PUA Foundation.
Aloha kako. From all of us at the Pu'a Foundation, our ohana, our family, and our entire team, we are grateful to the organizers and sponsors for Peer Apocalypse 2020. As a cultural sharing, we will be doing Oli Mahalo, composed by Kihao Kamara, which is a gratitude chant, commonly used in settings to give thanks. And in this case, we are thankful for the opportunity to share, to present at Peer Apocalypse, and again to recognize all that have made this virtual conference possible. We will both share in Hawaiian and English. Mahalo nui loa. The makalo mat has been unfolded. Food is shared in love. The great breath is exchanged. The lehua honors and adores. From zenith to horizon, gratitude to God, gratitude to our ancestors, gratitude with love, gratitude with love. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you again, everyone. And thank you, Tony, Debbie, Auntie Trini, and Kimmy Girl for that beautiful closing. You're honored. Thank you so much. And on with the second bank of workshops. Enjoy the rest of the day.